By 1592, there is evidence Shakespeare earned a living as an actor and a playwright in London and possibly had several plays produced. The September 20th, 1592 edition of the Stationer's Register, a Guild publication, includes an article by London playwright Robert Greene that takes a few jabs at Shakespeare. There is an upstart crow, beautified with our feathers, that with his tiger's heart wrapped in a player's hide, supposes he is as well able to bombast out a blank verse as the best of you, and being an absolute Johannes factotum, is in his own conceit the only Shake scene in a country. Scholars differ on the interpretation of this criticism, but most agree that it was Greene's way of saying Shakespeare was reaching above his rank, trying to match better known and educated playwrights like Christopher Marlowe, Thomas Nash, or Greene himself. Poems and sonnets. Early in his career, Shakespeare was able to attract the attention and patronage of Henry Wriothesley, the Earl of Southampton, to whom he dedicated his first and second published poems, Venus and Adonis, 1593, and The Rape of Lucrece, 1594. In fact, these long narrative poems, 1,194 and 1,855 lines, respectively, were Shakespeare's first published works. Wriothesley's financial support was a helpful source of income at a time when the theatres were shuttered due to a plague outbreak. Advertisement, continue reading below. Shakespeare's most well-known poetry are his 154 sonnets, which were first published as a collection in 1609 and likely written as early as the 1590s. Scholars broadly categorize the sonnets in groups based on two unknown subjects that Shakespeare addresses. Fair Youth Sonnets, the first one 26, and The Dark Lady Sonnets, the last 28. The identities of the aristocratic young man and vexing woman continue to be a source of speculation. The King's Men, life as an actor and playwright. In 1594, Shakespeare joined Lord Chamberlain's Men, the London acting company that he worked with for the duration of his career. Later called the King's Men, it was considered the most important troupe of its time and was very popular by all accounts. Some sources describe Shakespeare as a founding member of the company. But whatever the case, he became central to its success. Initially, he was an actor and eventually devoted more and more time to writing. Advertisement, continue reading below. Records show that Shakespeare, who was also a company shareholder, had works published and sold as popular literature. Although The Taming of the Shrew is believed to be the first play that Shakespeare wrote, his first published plays were Titus Andronicus and Henry VI Part 2. They were printed in 1594 in quarto, an 8-page pamphlet-like book. By the end of 1597, Shakespeare had likely written 16 of his 37 plays and amassed some wealth. At this time, civil records show Shakespeare purchased one of the largest houses in Stratford, called New Place, for his family. It was a 4-day ride by horse from Stratford to London, so it's believed that Shakespeare spent most of his time in the city writing and acting and came home once a year during the 40-day Lenten period, when the theatres were closed. However, Shakespeare expert and Professor Sir Stanley Wells posits that the playwright might have spent more time at home in Stratford than previously believed, only commuting to London when he needed to. For work. Although the theatre culture in 16th century England was not greatly admired by people of high rank, some of the nobility were good patrons of the performing arts and friends of the actors. Two notable exceptions were Queen Elizabeth I, who was a fan of Lord Chamberlain's Men by the late 1590s after first watching a performance in 1594, and her successor King James I. Following his crowning in 1603, the company changed its name to the King's Men. Thought to be the first production at the new open-air theatre. Owning the Playhouse proved to be a financial boon for Shakespeare and the other investors. In 1613, the Globe caught fire during a performance of Henry VIII and burned to the ground.